And here we are once again. It's another episode. This time I'm not going to give you the weird intro thing. I didn't like it. It was a bit strange. It was just me making my morning cup of coffee before sitting in and having a good old chat. But yeah, I've decided not to do that. I'm still experimenting with the intro. Let me know what you think. Obviously, if you are listening to this after the time, it'll be a retrospective opinion, but I like all opinions. Nothing is permanent. So even if I'm, 10 whatever episodes down the road and you still think that the intro needs a little bit of tweaking, let me know. Let me know. So here we are. It's episode 31. And I'm fresh off the back of guesting on a podcast show, which will be up in a while. I might do a little kind of features of featured things in the future. And it was just relaying the story that I have now around my mother's fairly quiet but yet turbulent departure from this world in 2019. The reason why this whole podcast even started in the vein that it did, where the first episode is Suicide Happened on a Monday. And relaying it in that show was interesting because I was given or decided to structure it in such a way where there was more of a backstory of understanding the capacity of people, or my mother in this case, and myself, and our situation, which is not unique, but certainly different and trying in its own colorful way. As a precursor to the actual eventualities, I've noticed I've considerably cut down the story, and it's quite nice to have people who can direct a show properly, because I have the capacity, as you very well know, to talk forever. I can literally talk until the cows fly. Or wait, I've put two phrases together. Pigs fly, the cows come home. Whatever. Those two things. I've made a portmanteau. Oh God, all my English is failing me. Anyway, I did a thing. It was funny. Now I've completely killed the joke, and now this is just turning really awkward. But yes, so doing that and being directed properly was quite interesting to observe and be a part of. Which means, as a result, this episode is going to be a little bit lower in energy, but I'm still going to try and be very vocally dynamic, because when I listen back to these, and I sometimes go, ooh, who is that person? That is not me. Where are the voices? Where's the fun? Where is the dual monologues happening in my brain that sometimes intertwine, come in and out of each other? They're right here. But today I thought it would be good to discuss mental wellness. That was a big old click. I'm gonna cut that one out. Mental wellness. In the sense of, I've probably mentioned this already in the last episode or the episode before, when I was standing around like a rampant squirrel. When it comes to mental wellness, a lot of us do, focus a lot on self-care and, having soft days, but it's really important to kind of keep your tools sharpened. And I don't mean tools like, being a hard ass and maybe aspiring to be like the Jocko Willinkses and the Dave Gogginses of the world. Like that's, big masculine energy, which might work for some. I'm sorry. There's a couple of birds having a conversation outside the window. If you hear them, then hey, nature in London is a thing. But going hardcore, do or die, masculine, just kind of thing, isn't necessarily necessary all the time. But equally, being a soft, gorgeous, lovely case of marshmallows isn't really healthy all the time either. It's all about balance and, looking after yourself when you need to, but also pulling yourself the fuck up to go and actually get shit done. And that's where mental wellness comes into play. Mental health obviously can look into and address so many different things. And I'm not, pulling anything away from that. I'm just saying, acknowledge the mental health situation you're in, that you're working through, but then utilize mental wellness to really become an absolute badass at navigating the waters that is you. Because it's only you. No one else knows you as good as you know you, really. And if people say that they know you better than you know yourself, they're liars. Because they haven't been in the bathroom when you go take a dump. I'm sorry, I don't know where that came from, but it's staying. It's sticking. It's a little bit weird, and it's sticking. So you get that visual image. You're welcome. So when it comes to mental wellness, being comfortable with some uncomfortable shit is good. You can start with small things and start building up to, bigger things, just so you know where you sit in everything, in life, in all that good stuff. Because you don't know when you're going to need it. With the podcast that I've just done, that I just guested on, the art of tenacity picked up once again, just being tenacious. And we kind of dived into why and how I mentally prepared myself for the inevitable. Because, when it comes to death, because that's a thing. When you're a kid, maybe someone dies, and maybe you're fortunate enough not to have someone right by you dying. So, you still have your parents. So you still get protected. You still are in a little bubble of some description as you're growing up. But as time goes on, death becomes more of an inevitable thing. You're a teenager, maybe your uncle dies or your granddad dies or someone, kind of a little bit further away dies, but not quite close. And as you get older, there are less buffers around you. And then you're just kind of faced with this inevitability. And everybody dies, No one survives. No one gets out of this alive. You live your life and then you die. So I kind of had this whole mental kind of exercise, I suppose. Sorry, I'm pausing a lot today. That I worked with one of my earlier psychotherapists. And it has a lot to do with taking NLP, so some things from NLP. So there's this thing called reframing, where you have one idea and it's really, really vibrant, which is the positive aspect that you want. And then you have this negative aspect, or something that you really want to do less of, and you desaturate that image and make it cold and just really unpleasant. So the stimulus in your brain from visualizing this desaturated, non-scent flavored kind of scenario, your brain is just like, we do not like this. We want to discard this and move forwards to this really positive, vibrant, fruity, spicy, whatever smells you want in there, kind of cinnamon toast visual, right? Scenario. You want to kind of gravitate towards that. So I took this and bastardized it in a pretty gruesome way, just because I read up on, the concept and the ideas behind exposure therapy. And I'm like, I don't particularly want to go hang out in morgues and hang around death. I don't want to hang around it. I just want to mentally and physically prepare myself for what it feels like when a void of a human happens, right? So I did this with myself when it comes round to suicide, because if you're new here, this is a show about me just talking about stuff that comes to mind, and it's mainly around philosophical ideas, and mainly spurred on by my mother's passing. She only passed away less than 2 years ago, because she passed away in May 2019, and we're only in 2021 now. We've just tipped into 2021. So May 2021 will be 2 years officially, but I'm still, still early days. We're 19 months, I think 20 months into this foray of the wake of suicide. So I have attempted suicide. So far 3 times in my existence. And I kind of reached a point after that where I really would like to manage my dark dog days a little bit better. So when I'm in a good mood, when I'm having a good day, what can I do to really pull this in and make it, make the experiences happen less. So this is where I pull this reframing technique from NLP, and I brought it into my own scenario. So I would take each way to kill yourself, right? And I would pull it in, and I'd create a scenario in my head of, maybe it'll be a hell of a lot of drink and a whole bunch of fucking pills, because I did that once. It doesn't work, by the way. It's very painful. Having your stomach pumped is not the one, fam. And then being in A&E is not the one either, fam. But yes, I create that scenario in my head. It was a little bit easier because I'd already done it before, so I just kind of ramped it up and, got really, really drunk and got some really, really aggressive pills. And because I knew what would happen, I put those together, and I imagined the amount of pain I'd be in, and, crawling on the floor, wishing it would just all be over, but I'm too drunk and I can't stand up. And, the smell of either a Malbec or a whiskey on my breath, or both. Who knows? Maybe I'll go turbo and just do a fucking cocktail, and just getting really, really gritty, really gritty. And if this makes you uncomfortable, switch it off. Like switch this off, because this is the frame of mind I'm in for this episode. It's pretty heavy. So if this makes you uncomfortable, go check out one of my other episodes if you haven't binge listened to all of them, or check out the next episode if that one's up yet. Because this is going to be heavy, folks. This is going to be super heavy. So I'm mentally creating this image of just being in pain, being highly inebriated. How does that feel? And eventually, when does the end happen? What would happen? Would I just be crying and bent over 4 ways, just wishing the pain would stop, and eventually my wish is granted? Right? That's one scenario. That's pretty gross. That's pretty grim. Like, I don't know if you've ever had a sore stomach, but if you multiplied any internal organ pain and just kind of increase that factor into something that's just so paralyzing, you feel the pain in your fingernails. Like, that's pretty harrowing shit. Okay? So you create that scenario. And I did this. I'm not going to go into like heavy detail with other scenarios, but whatever other things there are, if you're going to use knives on yourself, if you're going to, try and hang yourself, which has a fail rate, a very high fail rate, and you just get left with injuries. A lot of these things have a very high fail rate. The one thing that has a great success rate is what my mum did to herself, which is using a gun. But you have to use it correctly, because the last thing you want is for that to be lodged in your brain and you survive. And then you survive with whatever kind of implications that bullet has done to you as a person. So I did this with every scenario that I could think of, and I'd research it. Like, the internet's there, and I'm not sitting here going, this is going to be an advice on how to do the things. No, more a case of, if you know yourself well enough, and if you can do this, I highly recommend trying to just at least mentally put yourself through that state, so then you can at least understand that the feelings that happen are really not desirable, that you really don't want them. And that will maybe help you during your dark days, kind of going, if you have a lot of pain existing, you're going to have to go through 4 times the amount of pain to not exist, and I found it helped me create a buffer just to kind of at least give me a few more moments to realize that I am again trying to look for a permanent solution to a temporary problem that sucks, but like, tomorrow will happen, inshallah, tomorrow will happen, but you don't need to do this. What you're doing right now is